Okay, so we've learned the imperfect and we've learned the preterite, but now we have to figure out when to use which one. So we're going to start with the imperfect. Go ahead and find your paper that says imperfect. Have something to write with so that we can begin. The nice thing about the imperfect and the preterite is that they both come with a catchy little acronym to help you remember the rules for when to choose which one. So starting with the imperfect, and this is going to be on your green paper, we're going to start with the acronym WATCHED. Starting on the left with the W, we have weather. Anytime you're talking in the past tense and describing the weather, you're going to use the imperfect. If you want to say it was rainy, it was windy, it was a beautiful day, describing the weather will be in the imperfect tense. The next letter in the acronym WATCHED is the letter A. Whenever you state someone's age, use the imperfect in the past tense to say, she was 5 years old when, or I was 10 years old when. This is the imperfect past tense. Next is the letter T for telling time. Whenever stating what the time was in the past, you're also going to use the imperfect. It was 4 o'clock, it was 6:30, telling time. Next we have C for conditions. For example, if you want to describe the condition of a classroom, or you want to describe the condition of your bedroom, maybe you might say it was messy and it was an utter disaster. H stands for habitual actions. Habitual coming from the word habit. It implies repetition. It kept on going, or something that happened repeatedly. Common phrases will be like words that end in ing, such as I was writing or we were reading. Are habitual actions. Incomplete. They were ongoing. You could also use the phrase used to, things you used to do with frequency. This is also going to require you to use the imperfect. E is for emotions. If you want to state how somebody was feeling in the past, to say she was tired, she was sleepy, she was sick, all of those emotions are going to be the imperfect. Finally, we have descriptions. And descriptions on the right is going to be used maybe to describe somebody's physical traits or their personality attributes. She was a nice person, or she used to be really short. Anytime you're describing, you're going to use the imperfect. Go ahead and take a moment to see that you have the W, A, T, C, H, E, and D all filled in. And then we're going to move down and fill in our AR verb endings and our ER, IR verb endings. Starting with the chart on the left, for AR verbs, we have ABBA, ABBAS, ABBA, ABBAMOS with an accent. Nothing here because we don't use it. And ABBAN. Over to the right, we have our ER and IR ending verbs in the imperfect. Verbs like comer, or beber, or vivir. We're going to use ia, ias, ia, iamos, nothing here, and eon. Take a second to see that you have all of these endings, and don't forget the accents. All right, we're now going to go below, and we're going to review just a little so we can fully understand what's going on. First, read the sentence. he was a 10-year-old happy boy. What are the rules from the watched acronym up above that make this the imperfect tense? And I've given you one. The first one is age, because we've said he was 10. And go ahead and look for another one, because at the very end it says he's a happy boy. The other one will be emotion. You could also maybe do description. Let's look at this other sentence over here on the right. We have, it was 10 o'clock at night and it was rainy and very windy. Look up at your watched acronym. And what's the first rule that you notice? It was 10 o'clock at night. We have our T for telling time. Then we have it was raining and it was very windy. So we also have weather. And if you wanted to throw in D for description, we were setting the scene here with the description, you could use that too. So now it says scribble out the incorrect choice below. So we're going to cross out what doesn't make sense so we end up with an accurate statement. It says, I understand that in these examples either A, something happened, or B, they were setting the scene. Cross out, you guessed it, that something happened. So, in your own words, summarize when to use the imperfect tense. Okay, pause for just a moment, and you're going to want to flip over your paper so we can continue on to the back side. Here we have a list of imperfect trigger words, and now these aren't all of them, it's just a short list to get us started. You're going to take a moment to copy the words down on the left and to hit the words over on the right. At this point, we're going to pause the video so that you can take the time to get this information. Okay, now that you got all of that information, we are going to leave the next section blank for the examples because we'll come back to that later. And let's move to our red page for the preterite. If you notice in the imperfect tense, when we talk in the past and we set the scene, nothing really happens when you're setting the scene. It was a beautiful day, or it was raining and it was storming, but no real action occurred. The preterite exists because this is where the action takes place in telling a story about what happened. So here we have an acronym, SPICE. And take a look at the left, and we start with the S. The S is for a specific completed action with a specific moment in time indicated. For example, yesterday I studied. Last week I ate at Olive Garden. Those are very specific completed actions with a specific moment in time indicated, yesterday or last week. Next we have P, a past completed action. You're going to see that a lot of these end up kind of repeating because the key to the preterite is it is a completed past action. I went to the store, I shut the door, I watched the movie. There's definite endings to these actions. They're not ongoing. I stands for interrupting an ongoing action. So for example, you could say, I was reading a book when the phone rang. The phone rang and it interrupted an ongoing action. So you can actually have both preterite and imperfect in a sentence, and the preterite is what interrupts something that was going on. Then we have the C. The C is a completed past action, which is just like that P over there, a past completed action. We're just really re-emphasizing it. And then finally we have an E, which ends. The action is ended. It's not ongoing. It's not signifying that it was a repetition, something that happened over and over again in the past. It's something happened at a very specific moment in time for a specific event. I think on your papers you also might have the word why, and for the word why you could also think of yesterday. So you could have spice or you could have spicy. Yesterday just indicating it occurs in the past tense. We're now going to scroll down and we're going to fill in our preterite past tense AR verb endings in our chart on the left. We should know these pretty well by now because we just had a test over them, but our regular AR endings are a, aste, o, amos, and aron. And our ER and IR endings are e, iste, io, emos, and ieron. Once you have these, let's go down and focus on some specific examples so you can better understand how the SPICY or SPICE acronym is used. So let's focus here on the left. And on the left we have the sentence, she got out of the car, shut the door, and went inside. So what were the three things that she did? Well, she got out, she shut, and she went inside. So these are all completed actions, or you can say past completed actions. Let's take a look at the right. The sentence below says, while she was reading, the phone rang. So what is the rule that makes this bold phrase the preterite? It's the I in spicy for the interrupted or interrupting action. This being the preterite because it interrupted it. This one over here was reading. That comes from that imperfect rule that was ing. So this shows you can actually have two in the same sentence. Let's flip over our paper so we can get the very last set of trigger words. Take a moment to pause the video and copy down your Spanish meanings on the left with your English meanings on the right. So the very basic differences between the imperfect and the preterite. The imperfect sets the scene, and the preterite was the actions or the actions that occurred within the story. Setting the scene is the imperfect, and the preterite are the completed actions of the story. And that is going to be what we focus on for this unit.